Please welcome him with a big round of applause. Good morning, everyone. I am the Chief Maritime Officer of HMM, Kim Gyou-Bong. Before I begin my presentation, I would like to thank Chair Professor Lee Yeon-seung and other distinguished guests for having me today, and it's a great honor for me to join you in this session. As you might well know, when it comes to the topic of decarbonization from a shipping company's point of view, this is a very important topic. Regarding decarbonization, I'm going to talk about what thoughts and challenges shipping companies are faced with related to this issue of decarbonization. So this is the table of contents. Majorly 3 issues. First, greenhouse gas regulations. Second, in tackling the GHG regulations from a shipping company's point of view, I'm going to talk about our activities and strategies. And then I will wrap up my presentation with conclusions. I believe you already know the GHG regulations. You know the status and you know what kind of regulations we have. In 2018, IMO announced the GHG roadmap, and it specified the reduction target, and based on this target, EEXI and CII will take effect starting next year. Regarding EEXI, I think you already know this. So before, we used to apply the target to existing ships, and that was expanded to cover new ships built. Starting from 2023, you should be able to qualify or meet the targets regardless of the status of whether you're an existing ship or a new ship. You should be able to meet the target by the time it takes effect. And this CII is a very thorny issue for shipping companies. This is about grades, different grades for vessels from A to E. And if you have grade E or D, which means low efficiency, then these will be regulated. And the CII requirements are getting stricter every year. So even if you started off as an A grade, well, you're bound to go down in terms of grade that you get. So that's why it is so difficult. So, for example, this is 13,000 TEU vessel, and this is an assumption that this will be operated on an as-is basis, and this shows how the grades will differ going forward. So if you stick to the existing way of operations, it starts with B, grade B. It starts with B, but in 2030, it will be D. And in the mid-2030, you can see that this goes down to grade E, which is the lowest grade. And if this vessel is an LNG, and if it uses LNG, then for a long time it can maintain the grade of A. And by the time it is abandoned or discarded, this can be degraded. in order to achieve higher grades for CII, the best way is to control the vessel speed. So from CII grades, in order to maintain the C grade, this shows the speed that we have to pursue. So if you're using existing fuel, it's about 20 knots per hour. And we have to reduce the speed by 0.5% every year. And by the time the ship is out of service, it has to be lowered by 10%. And with that speed, you can't really think that your business will be running as normal. On the other hand, if you use alternative fuels like LNG, you can see that the speed remains more or less the same. So looking at CII, you can tell that only from this category, you can already tell that fuels have to be changed in order to tackle IMO regulations. Next shows what strategies and activities are done by shipping companies, namely HMM. At my company, well, this is the greenhouse gas emissions. HMM generated 5.5 million tons last year. And 90% of this, which is 5.4 million, is from ships that are being operated. So we have this reduction target by 2025 compared to 2008. We have this reduction target of 60%, which we achieved earlier than scheduled. And by 2030, we have a target of 70% reduction. And even though it sounds like an ambitious goal, we want to be carbon neutral by 2050. At HMM, these are the specific strategies. So regarding IMO greenhouse gas short-term measures, first with EEXI, more than 80% of the global merchant fleet do not meet these EEXI requirements. And at HMM, 33% are not compliant with this requirement. So the maximum torque will be reduced for these particular vessels in order to meet the requirement. And about CII, we are taking a more strategic approach. First, we do the monitoring of real-time CII, and also we are working on developing a simulation tool for monitoring CII. And for vessels with lower grades, we can think of energy-saving devices, ESD, instead of just reducing speed. And also we can think of using biofuel. So basically, we're considering many options to achieve CII requirements. Next, about alternative fuels, low carbon or carbon-free alternatives. And in order to build vessels using these alternative fuels, 2 container ships, 7.7 KTEU level, they are being built. And for those new built vessels going forward, these will be using alternative fuels, including methanol. And from 2026, we are considering the use of ammonia for these new built ships. And I believe that hydrogen can also play as an alternative. And for the existing vessels, based on the feasibility study outcomes, we are considering retrofitting them to use LNG or methanol. And in order to operate these vessels using alternative fuels, we need to secure fuel supply chains, whether it be LNG, methanol, ammonia, and biofuel. We are seeking to build strategic partnerships with suppliers so that we can have a stable fuel supply chain. We're also very active in the field of R&D. For instance, developing onboard hydrogen fuel cells and R&D projects led by the government. We are involved in these projects as well. And we also have a collaboration projects with industry leaders. For eco-friendly shipping, we are actively participating in global initiatives as well. We joined the Getting to Zero coalition, which is working to develop the first CO2-free vessel before 2030. And also, we are considering the possibility of participating in the Green Shipping Challenge as well. We will be expanding our eco-friendly businesses going forward, including the eco-friendly projects. By 2026, investments of more than 15 trillion won will be made, and that plan was already announced. Next, conclusions. Many shipping companies are well aware of the importance of decarbonization and trying to change their modus operandi to meet the requirements. But it is not always easy to implement these strategies because we are faced with uncertainty going forward. But we have to think about what the biggest uncertainty is. According to the British shipping media, there was a survey that looked at shipping companies around the world, and it asked what the biggest risk would be for the next 5 years. And the regulatory uncertainty was the first thing that came to the minds of respondents. So for shipping companies, regulatory uncertainty is the biggest issue, and that is one of the factors that makes us hesitate in action. About a month ago, between Korea and Denmark, there was a forum on decarbonization. And in this forum, well, the Maritime Authority of Denmark said regulation is key driver of innovation and new technology. I fully agree with this sentence. So the directions of regulations are also important. It's not just about how strict a regulation is, but it's more about the directions of regulations, because shipping companies can make judgments and decisions based on the directions. We have participants representing the government, the industry, and different institutes, and I believe that it's a time for us to join forces in tackling this issue. Last, when it comes to decarbonization, of course, we have this digitalization issue on the one hand, and between digitalization and decarbonization, there are commonalities, but also there are differences. I'd like to touch upon some of the commonalities. the shipping company at HMM and other shipping companies have to tackle these big challenges in order to survive. If we fail to do so, then we can't really maintain our business. My presentation was rather brief, but I hope that it was a meaningful opportunity for me to touch upon the major topics